Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatai Shatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. We welcome each and every one of you for today's evening discussion. So this is the continuation of the talk that we gave last Saturday, titled as Dealing with Anxiety, Techniques for Dealing with Hijacked Mind. The subject matter of anxiety, when you look at it, different psychologists address it differently. Some call it emotional disorder, some call it as inability to deal with the stress, and so forth. If I look at it from the perspective of Bhagavad Gita, I call it as a problem of an hijacked mind. The problem lies with the mind, and unless we address the root cause of it, you continue the rest of your life on medications, and the doctors and the pharmaceutical industry makes a profit out of you. So we discuss about it where Arjuna in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita raises a question. Athakena priyuktayam papam charati purushaha anichchanapi vashneya baladiva niyojitaha. My dear Lord, by what one is impelled to do something which he doesn't want to do it, and he's forced into doing it, and later on he regrets. In other words, somebody has been warned about or somebody have got an issue with smoking. Doctor have diagnosed he has a lung cancer. Family have warned him. Friends have requested him that do not smoke again. However, this person, despite all the knowledge about the dangerous effects of smoking for his health, and he has already got ill effects of it, yet when he sees a smoke shop or somebody smoking, he becomes helpless. It's just like an iron filing getting attracted to magnet. Goes ahead, there's a relapse, smokes again, and then regrets. How many of you have that experience in your life? Not a smoking, but a different situation. Raise your hand. 200% everyone. If you don't realize it, oh, that's just a difficult situation then. This is a root problem that we all go through with it. So those of you who have come for the first time, maybe are returning back after a while, I often say Bhagavad Gita is not a religious textbook alone. I ain't saying it is not a religious textbook, but I'm saying it is not only a religious textbook. It is a book which is a book which helps to, or which is there to teach you how to live your life. It is a life's manual. It's the best motivational book, or whatever you call it. You can call it is your best friend, best guide, how Krishna has spoken the message to Arjuna. So we all recognize that we have a problem about this. And then Krishna gives an answer. Kama isha krodesha rajoguna samadvaha mahashano mahapapma vidyanabhi variram. This is all last time's discussion, where Krishna said, Arjuna, yes, indeed, that's a true inquiry that you're making. Everyone faces this problem, and the problem is because of Kama. And Kama has a younger brother by the name of Krodha, and also has a sibling. Any guess what could be the sibling for Kama? Greed, correct. You know the family members very well. So you have read Bhagavad Gita, you have some idea of Bhagavad Gita. Good. So Krodh becomes a younger brother, Greed becomes a sibling. I mean, sibling and younger brother is the same thing actually. I didn't say cousin, so that's good, you caught the point. So like this. So Krishna says, Kamesha Krodesha. What is Kam? Lust. That's how loosely translated into English as lust. When we think of a word lust, we think only sexual attraction. No, it's not about that. The meaning of Kama, the word Kama in Sanskrit is far much more deeper. It refers to desires. And then again, desires have a more deeper analysis and understanding. We'll take a look at it. Here, if you see on the chart here, what we drew last time, the nature of desire for things of this world is such, when the desire gets fulfilled, you get a sense of pride. I did it. Then what happens? Desire plus one. Then the next desire, yes or no? And if a desire is not fulfilled, you're frustrated. What happens next? Desire remains as it is. At the end of the day, your desire is fulfilled or not fulfilled, you remain eternally frustrated as long as you're part of this world. So as Krishna says, that's what, and Krishna defines this as Nitya wherein, again we discussed last time. Who is the enemy? Krishna says Kama. That's the force which pushes you to do things against your will for which you regret. Nature of this enemy, it's eternal enemy, Nitya Verina, which means it's not only for this life long, it continues with you life after life after life. And what's the nature of it? Dushpurena nalena cha, which means it cannot be extinguished. It's like a fire. The more you try to fulfill, it's like more adding fuel to it, and it blazes more. And we gave an example. Think about any desire. Has it ever got fulfilled? It only got satisfied for a while, and then you again thought, I should have it. And we gave an example of on 25th December, let's say you're purchasing a new Swift. Remember last time? And then you're coming at the corner of the street of your house, extremely happy and proud that you've got a Swift car which you had been longing for a while. And at the corner of the street, you see a big billboard. Aa raha hai 2023 naya model with 15% discount. कितने लोगों की जलने वाली है? बोलेंगे अरे क्या गलती कर दी, एक हफ्ते में नया मॉडल मिल जाता with advantage, added features and whatnot. So like that we discussed about it. So when Krishna spoke to this like this to Arjuna, then Krishna asked, so are you afraid? Arjuna said, yes, my dear Lord, it can never be satisfied. It's my eternal enemy. How do I fix it? What's the solution? So we discussed about how we can overcome this, what called as lust. Again, I have not gotten details much about desires. We'll take this up gradually. We're just keeping it as into a loose term, desires as of now. So Krishna says, well, there are 3-step methodology to deal with this enemy. The very first strategy to deal with an enemy is to find out where the enemy is. So Krishna says, your enemy resides at 3 places: senses, mind, intelligence. So this is a 3-step model by which we function. Our desires manifest into this world through the process of intelligence, mind, and senses. Senses we have already discussed and elaborated in previous 2 sessions. Senses are 10 kinds of senses: knowledge acquiring senses and working senses. Knowledge acquiring means eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and touch. These all are, if you want to call it into computer language, these are your input devices. Information, outside information enters into you through this knowledge acquiring senses. If it is an input device, what is an output device? Working senses becomes output. Hands, feet, tongue, genitals, rectum. This is through this you interact and fulfill your desires. That's an output device. So how this knowledge acquiring, Hare Krishna, scary background music. How does this knowledge acquiring senses and working senses work in conjunction with each other? Well, they need a central operating system which processes that information, and that is mind. So mind is just like operating system which is pre-coded as a way to analyze whatever you input and accordingly produce an output. Similarly, this mind, each one of us, when we are born in this world, we have this. And it comes with its own default conditions. We all have that, and gradually as we grow and the body has the facility to fulfill those desires begin to manifest. We have discussed about all this subject matter before. So mind is a unit where you have thinking, feeling, and willing, which means it's a cluster of thoughts. It's a cluster of all your past experience, whatever you have done. It all creates an impression on this thing, what is called as mind. It is stored in a subtle state. And how many of you have that experience? Let me tell you, so that you begin to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. How many of you have had, while you go to sleep, you dream? And suddenly in a dream you see sometimes flying in the sky, sometimes drowning in the water, sometimes being chased in the forest, and sometimes chasing the lion yourself. You have all kind of weird dreams. How many of you have that? Either of it. Either you have seen somebody have thrown you off the cliff and suddenly you wake up with whole stress and sweat on your head, all that. What is all this? So there's a whole subject matter called as dream psychology. We don't discuss today because we are so much bombarded with the information today. Therefore, that whole subject matter to decode has become difficult. Otherwise, what's there in your dream at times indicates what's there about to come in your future. Anyways, I won't going to discuss on that. So what we see generally in the dreams is nothing but this impressions of the past lives, even of this lifetime and of the past lives, they come on the surface of the mind, and that appears to us as a dream, and we ourselves in different bodies and different shapes. So mind is extremely powerful absorbing device which absorbs all kind of things that you perform through knowledge acquiring and working senses. However, mind is not the decision maker. Who is the decision maker? Intelligence. So last time when we discussed about this whole thing, how intelligence, mind and senses interact with each other, I gave you an example of Mithulal Mithaiwala. How many of you remember? Raise your hand. Okay, those who don't, watch the recording. I'm not going to give the example again here. And we saw that. How many of you agree that, yeah, it's just like any computer machine working? You know, there is an operating device, there's an input and output device, and there's a decision-making unit, which analyzes information and says, do it or not do it. That's how this whole function works. So we spoke about this, like this, and that was step one. Then ahead, Krishna says, yeah, this is the relationship between intelligent mind and senses. Krishna speaks about it. Please repeat after me. Indriyani parani aho. Indriyebhya param manaha. Manastastu para buddhi. Yo buddhi paratastu sa. So Krishna says the working senses are superior to this body, the grass body. Superior to the senses, the mind. Superior to the mind is intelligence. And superior to the intelligence is soul, Atma. So now we begin our today's discussion. We kind of paused last time up to this particular part of the slide. So question comes, we spent all our life in today's day and time thinking I'm just this gross body. And here Krishna says, gross body is the least part of your reality. Greater than gross body is your senses. Greater than that is the mind. And greater than that is intelligence. And the greatest of all is the soul. You are the soul, not the body. Discussed in third chapter and second chapter, the very first instruction that Krishna gives to Arjuna. Arjuna, if you want to decode the problems of life, first of all, you need to understand who you are and what you are. You are not the body, but spirit soul. So question comes, if I am the body, I am the spirit soul, what is the relationship of mind with the Supreme Lord? Krishna speaks about it, 15th chapter, verse number 7. Let's begin our topic for today. Please repeat. Mamaivam sujiva lokhe jiva bhuta sanatanaha manashashtani indriyani prakriti sthani kashyati. Krishna says, Manha Shashta Indriyani. Shashta means 6, Indriyani means senses. Manha plus Indriyani, 5 senses makes it 6. Simple Sanskrit. Prakriti Sthani, situated in this world. Karshati. Karshan means friction. Why are you going through so much struggles of life? Why? Krishna is raising this question. Arjuna says, I ain't. I'm enjoying my life. Every man walking on the street thinks that he's enjoying. But Krishna says, no. So who do you believe? The man walking on the street or Krishna? Oh, that's a tricky question. Okay, let me say why Krishna. Maybe you're sitting here and say Krishna, but let me prove you how Krishna. We spoke about it last time. Krishna says, because your life is centered on senses and mind, you're only struggling at all times. How? I give an example. Imagine if I have to bring a glass of water to you right now, and if you aren't thirsty, you're not going to accept the glass of water. Even if you accept a glass of water, you may just take a sip and that's it. You would not find any satisfaction. Yes or no? However, if you are thirsty, imagine you're gone out in a sunny day, pretty hot day. You did some physical work, you come back and you're thirsty. Let me put it this way. The more thirsty you have ever experienced, the more you have relished the water. Yes or no? Can anyone draw the conclusion of it? What does it mean? The more thirsty you ever felt, the more satisfaction you felt when you drank water. Water is the same object. Why did you feel greater satisfaction? Because you were more thirsty. What does it mean? Anyone, all of your science background, probably engineer, draw an engineering equation out of it. What does it indicate? Yes. Great, not satisfaction. or temporary happiness. Satisfaction has a different word, meaning. So, very nice answer. The young boy says, if this is correct, what we discussed, it means greater the suffering, greater is the enjoyment. So, if somebody says on the street he's happy, what does it indicate? He's suffering. I mean, I'm not saying that. Do you agree? This is a mathematical equation. You all agree to it, this concept. If you are not thirsty, you will not accept water. Take it for any reason. So let's say hunger. If you have had your lunch up to this, and now somebody brings your favorite sweet item, maybe you can taste it. You'll not be able to relish it. Or you will keep it back in the fridge saying, Sham ko khaunga. But that time you cannot eat it. But imagine if you're really hungry, you haven't eaten for, let's say, a day or two, and somebody brings a khichdi. How many of you think you're going to really devour it and relish it? And you will say, I have never tasted rice and dal together like this before. How many of you agree with this? What does it indicate? Once again, what does it indicate? Are we okay to draw a conclusion? Greater our suffering, to that degree we relish, or to that degree we enjoy. So suffering is directly proportional to enjoyment. So if you see anyone having a smiling face outside and say, I'm enjoying, you draw a conclusion. Kitna dukhi aadmi hai. Now this may sound a little hopeless. Arey, what is this? Is this what life is all about? You know, if I suffer, then I enjoy. Well, that's what Krishna is saying. Mana shashtran indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. Arey, kya sangarsh maar raha hai? Mamai vamsa jiva loka jiva bhuta sanatana. Mamai va amsha. Mamai means mine. Amsha means my part and parcel. Mamai va amsha jiva loka jiva bhuta sanatana. Hey Arjuna, aap and every living entity in this world is my part and parcel. Being my part and parcel, why are you struggling? And that's the question Krishna is raising here to Arjuna. When Krishna is raising this question to Arjuna, it implies something, which means there is another level of reality where for me to be happy, I don't have to go through suffering. Otherwise, why would Krishna raise this question? Isn't it? Is it making sense? For that, you have to really get into Bhagavad Gita to understand what that level of reality. I would not be touching on that subject today, but we'll discuss what happens next. Arjuna argues. He said, no, my dear Lord. Oh, I'm enjoying my life. And soon everything will be okay. Oh, okay, there is some problem, but everything will be okay. Anyways, who has seen what will happen after death? Life means to enjoy to the fullest. Why to care for anyone and anything? Sounds familiar? How many of you say sounds familiar? Raise your hand, please. कभी सुना है आस पड़ोस के लोगों को ऐसे बोलते हुए? और कभी शीशे में खड़े होकर किसी परछाई को देखा है ऐसे बोलते हुए? I guess probably this is our story. Krishna says, hey, wait a second, you are a fool. You don't know the reality of life. Let me tell you. Then Krishna says next. Please repeat. Shariram yadavapnoti yachapi utkramatishvaraha. I can't hear this side. There is a dinner for sure, okay? But I'm observing who doesn't speak. I'm cancelling your dinner count. Speak up again. Shariram yadavapnoti yachapi utkramatishvaraha. Gritvaitani samyati vayu gandhani vashayat. The living entity in the material world carries its different conceptions of life from one body to another. As the air carries aromas, thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another body. Krishna telling Arjuna, you're not able to understand. You're asking what happens? There is only one life. Arjuna, you're always changing bodies. You have come and acquired this particular body for a certain duration, and then you will die, you will accept another body. And that's how you keep on moving on. Which means all of us have had unlimited past lifetimes. And in each of that lifetime, we have had number of relationships. Some set of parents. Somebody was our husband, wife, we were kids of somebody. So therefore, Bhagavad Gita says, this life that you're living in one way is more or so is kind of a dream if you look on the spectrum of eternity. When you go to sleep in the night, you see some dreams. In dreams, you make some different kinds of relationship. When you wake up in the morning, the dream is gone. So Krishna is saying, when you change your body, everything of the past life is forgotten. Therefore, there are all kinds of living entities. There are plants, the birds, the beasts, insects, whatnot. But human life is very, very important. A rare opportunity is given to the human life. How? Human life acts as a train junction. Junction is a place where you can catch a train for different destination. So human life gives an opportunity, awards us an opportunity to either ascend or descend, which means go into the higher destinations or else degrade to the lower species. What do you think these plants and trees are? They were also in one lifetime human beings like us. And scriptures very categorically tells who becomes plants and trees, who becomes the dog, who becomes the cat. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. This is not my subject, but just to give you a little clue over here. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tayajati ante kalevaram. The secret of acquiring the next body is given in Bhagavad Gita chapter number 8, 8.5, 8.6. Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Smaran means remembrance. Bhavam means state. Tayajate means giving up. Ante ka kalevaram. Kalevaram means body. Ante means at the end. At the time of quitting the body, what one remembers is what you get in your next life. So dog lovers, be cautious. I'm not against, but I'm just giving you a little bit hints here. This is not my subject matter right now. I'm giving you hints. It might sound it as a joke, but it ain't a joke. It's a science. If not, think about it. Did you choose your parents? Did you choose your gender? Did you choose your face cut, your intelligence? So who decides? Just like you go to a school, somebody decides your grade. Somebody evaluates your marks. There is a system in this nature, in this world, who evaluates our actions. And accordingly, we are provided different opportunities. So don't think we are independent. You're not even independent. The government is at all times cutting off taxes. So where you can say you're independent, it's just only in a fiction that we are independent. So human life is like a train junction. A junction is a place where you can make a choice based on two things. Yamemapi smaran bhavam tayajatante kalevaram, which means what kind of desire you have cultivated, what you want to be. So if you have to go to another place, you need to have a desire. Desire cultivated over a span of time. It is not that at the end of life you can remember anything. It doesn't happen. The death is an extremely painful experience. Therefore, Krishna dedicated one whole chapter number 8 of Bhagavad Gita, about title as Attaining Supreme, how to face death. And second, what's the process, how you're evaluated based on your actions, karma. So Arjuna pondered and he said, my dear Lord, what exactly happens after death? So before Krishna gives an answer, let's watch a short video over here. What exactly happens after death?
What happens to us when we die? All of us have faced this question at one time or another. Many shrug it off, considering the question unanswerable. The Vedic literature answers this profound question by outlining broad principles that shape the soul's journey after the body dies. It consists of 3 successive stages. 1. The soul leaves the present body. 2. It travels to the location of its next body, and 3. It enters the next body. 1. The soul's exit from the body. Vedic wisdom explains that death actually occurs when the soul permanently leaves the gross material body. At the time of death, the soul normally exits from one of the 9 holes in the body, which the Vedas refer to as the 9 gates: the 2 eyes, the 2 ears, the 2 nostrils, the mouth, and the 2 excretory organs. The Brihadaranyika Upanishad 4.4.1-2 describes the soul's departure. At the time of death, the area of his heart becomes lit, and by that light, the soul departs either through the eye, the head, or through other apertures of the body. And when he departs, the pranas, or life airs, follow him to his next destination. His knowledge and his deeds follow him, as does his previous wisdom, if not specific details of his former life. Souls that are spiritually evolved generally depart from one of the 7 holes in the head, whereas souls that have yet to sufficiently evolve depart from one of the 2 other holes. The point through which a soul departs indicates its next destination. The souls who depart through the holes in the head will continue on towards the higher, more evolved realms of the universe, whereas the souls who depart through the other holes are headed toward lower, less evolved realms. 2. The soul's journey to the next body. When the soul sets off on its journey to the next body, it is given a transitional body that is grosser than the subtle body and subtler than the gross body. Equipped with this body that the Vedic literature calls preta, the soul is taken by nature's arrangement to its next destination. The soul often finds this journey painful because in its present condition it is highly susceptible to pain. To help ease the soul's pain, the Vedic literatures, like the Garuda Purana, recommend that the relatives of the deceased person perform certain activities whose merit cushions the soul's onward journey. 3. The soul's entry into the next body. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.31.1, a classic of the Vedic library, outlines one of the typical pathways by which the soul enters the body. The soul is made to enter into the womb of a woman through the particle of male semen to assume a particular type of body. What determines our next body? Which body a particular soul gets is determined by the broad principles that underlie the mechanism of reincarnation. This soul, after having thrown away the old and useless body, makes unto himself newer and hopefully better bodies according to his previous actions, ability, and desires. The Bhagavad Gita 15.8 offers another metaphor to explain how the soul finds its next destination. Just as the air carries aromas, the soul carries its different conceptions of life from one body to another. And as we've already heard from the Bhagavad Gita 2.22, the body is like a piece of clothing for the soul. Reincarnation is therefore something like taking off an old suit and putting on a new one. Just as what suit we wear is usually determined by our taste and our budget, the soul's new suit is determined by its desires, its attachments, and the karma it has acquired.
Hare Krishna. This short video sums up the whole discussion. Let's take it forward what Krishna says. When Arjuna asks, what happens after death? So this rest of the discussion will make more sense. Krishna says, well, you accept another set of body with another set of instruments. Please repeat. Shrotram chakshus pashnam cha rasanam grahanam eva cha adhisthaya manaschayam Vishayanupasevate. Krishna says a living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys particular set of sense objects, which means the soul moves on to another destination and accept another set of body. According to Vedic Science, there are 8.4 million dresses or types of bodies to choose from, divided into plants, trees, aquatics, animals, both herbivorous, carnivorous, human species. These all are just compared to a dress. Based on your liking and your budget, you acquire a new dress. Similarly, based on your desire and karma, you are awarded. So we would have had some karma in the past life because of which we got a human form of life. None of us know how we got it. and none of us know what's going to happen next. Therefore, very important in this human form of life to study, to understand the way out of this cycle. So when Krishna told him about this, then Arjuna argued, my dear Lord, if soul exists, why I am not able to see it? Logical question. People raise, oh really, soul exists, why I can't see it? And Krishna argued back, what can you really see? If I ask you a question, how many living entities are in this room? Any guesses? 100? How many of you say, let's say, less than 200? Raise your hand. Okay. You raise your hand high up. Just let's see. So some of these, they say there are around less than 200 audience or living entities here. How many say they are close to 1,000? 10,000? How many say literally unlimited? Any one of you who is saying unlimited would like to answer those who said there is a limited entities here? Those of you raising your hand, yes sir. There would be ants, cockroaches. So many things are there. These are also living entities. What can you see? What can you really see? You cannot see the grass body. What will you see? The soul. That's the point Krishna says. Let's take a look at it. Utkramantam sitam vapi Bhunjanam va gunanvitam Vimudhananupashyanti Pashyanti jnana chakshusha. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. So question arises, what does it mean to be foolish? Who is a foolish person? Let me give an example. Imagine you all are flying from Pune to Delhi. And the plane is about to land in Delhi airport. Suddenly there is a hue and cry, there is a ruckus, there is a screaming of the people in the plane. And you peek out and look into the aisle and you see, oh, there is a terrorist. The plane is hijacked. We're not going to go to Delhi. We're going to go to Calcutta. And everyone is, oh my goodness, the plane is hijacked. Everyone is worried, literally sweaty. And you look to your passenger sitting right next to you. And he has a big smile. And you wonder, क्या रे? क्यों दांत दिखा रहा है? बोलता है, देखो भाई, अपने ने टिकट दिल्ली का खरीदा और फोकट का राइट कलकत्ता, दे ताली. तुम बोलोगे नहीं बोलोगे, पागल हो गया क्या? And the plane turns around, goes to Calcutta. While it is about to land, again there is an announcement. The plane will not land to Calcutta. The plane will now go to Afghanistan. Everyone is terrified. Everyone is terrified. And now you dare to look again at this fellow sitting next to you. And uski 32 nazar aa rahi hai abhi. Full big smile. And you asking, kya re? Kyun has raha hai? बोलते हैं यार दिल्ली तक का टिकट खरीदा, इंडिया का टूर तो हुआ नहीं, अभी इंटरनेशनल फ्लाइट, ना वीजा ना टिकट, इंटरनेशनल जर्नी, दे दो ताली. How many of you call such a person is a fool? Raise your hand. This is our story, by the way. This is our story. Let me tell you how. Please take a look. This is 9/11 unfortunate incident where the plane was hijacked and it crashed into the tower and destroyed the lives of everyone who was sitting in the plane. Similarly, our plane of our life has been also hijacked. Hijacked by whom? Lust. And it is driving our plane to destruction. But we say we are enjoying life. But we say we're enjoying life. Aage ka kisne dekha hai? So that fool in the story that I said, which you agreed is a fool, sorry to say, is our story. We have not understood that our own plane, our own life has been hijacked. Therefore, Krishna says, lust is your eternal enemy. And you ought to win over it. That's the subject matter. Let's come back again. So how do we defeat lust? The battle plan. The first two steps we have already discussed. Identify the hideouts. The lust is hidden. hiding in senses, mind, intelligence. To understand this, you can watch the last time recording. We have discussed the example for it. Battle plan. So if you want to defeat the lust, we know where the enemy is. Second, among all the three places, the easiest place to attack and defeat lust is the senses, because that's an input. So if you decide what goes inside, you have a control to it, but what goes inside is not in your control. So you can choose to watch something or not, you can choose to hear or not hear, etc., etc. It's unto us. We have that opportunity. So that's what Krishna says, regulate the senses. Of all the three, senses are senses are easier to control. Please repeat. Tasmat tvam indriyani adau niyamaya bharatashava papamanam prajahiyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning of this great symbol of sin, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Chapter number 3, text number 41. So how do we do so? How do we control the senses? I mean, it's really not in our control to really control the senses. So Krishna says, yes, that's correct. Please repeat. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Second chapter, verse number 59 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense object remains. Which means you may try to, let's say, fast for a day, but you don't stop eating. The hankering continues. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. You might have come across, you might be one of those, or you might have come across some friends of yours or family members of yours, when they get into, let's say, studying something, or let's say playing something, they forget all about eating and drinking. How many of you have seen that? Would you say that they're experiencing a higher taste in that activity, therefore they have forgotten the basic needs of life? Yes or no? Therefore Krishna is saying that. The best way of controlling the senses is to engage in an activity which gives you a higher taste, so that you don't have a need of it only. You don't get the urge only. The question arises, what is that activity? We'll tell you what are those activities in a short while. Let's go to the step 3, the battle plan. Krishna says there are 3-step strategy. Know your enemy, where it lies. Then among the 3 enemies, attack onto that enemy, which is the easiest, that is the senses. How to do that? Develop higher taste. Do such activities which will let you free from the lower taste, the things which destroy ourselves. So what are those activities? We're going to discuss in a short while. And the 3rd step is knowledge. Jnana and Vijnana, which acts as the food for the soul. Text number 43 of chapter 3. Krishna says, strengthen the intelligence by hearing, reading, discussing and applying Shastra. Please remember that chart that I showed you, how the internal things function. Senses give input to the mind, mind processes, but mind is not the decision maker. What is the decision maker? Intelligence. The function of intelligence is to make a decision and discriminate. For your intelligence to discriminate and make a decision, it needs a reference point. And how do you develop a reference point? By cultivating knowledge. Each one of us were born in complete ignorance, yes or no? We didn't even know how to clean up ourselves, what to speak about anything else. We were so ignorant. We were trained, our intelligence were trained what to do, how to do it, and what not to do it. Similarly, when we read scriptures, when we listen or hear subject matters like Bhagavad Gita, etc., our intelligence becomes equipped with the required wisdom to tell, which means the decision-making system becomes qualified enough to decide what to do, not to do. These are the 3 ways, 3-step strategy. And how to put it? Srila Prabhupada, therefore, these subject matter science cannot be understood without a teacher. Thanks to our Srila Prabhupada, who gave a very simple formula to apply. It's just ABCD. Let's go back to the basics. No use of your PhDs, engineering and doctor degree. It's all about ABCD. Just remember this. I'm not going to talk about A for Apple, B for boy, C for Chandigarh, D for Delhi. Whatever you say. That's not the point here. What is ABCD formula? Let's take a look. A refers to, I want all of you to repeat loudly. A stands for? Hey, pura bolo. Not association. Well, there are association of two kinds. Modern psychologists talk about this, and our scriptures have been speaking about it. Let me quote a psychologist today. They say there are two ways of associating. One is of people. Because in this 21st century, we are in the age of information, we associate less with people, more with information. Both are association. So either you associate with people, associate with information, both affects us. Therefore, it says association is contagious. You might have heard, Jaisa sang, Vaisa rang. So how you associate with is what you become. And in scriptures, it is emphasized again and again and again. Choose your association carefully. Choose your association carefully. So, what association? Association of saintly people, people who are looking for progressive life, who are spiritual seekers. We should have some people like that in our life so that they bring us back to, what should be the direction of life. That's A for association. The next B stands for books. So here B stands for reading wisdom literatures like Bhagavad Gita, Ishopanishad, Srimad Bhagavatam, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and you go on. Our Vedic library is so big, maybe hundreds of lifetimes would not suffice for us to complete. But to make it easy, make a target to read 700 verses Bhagavad Gita. Krishna would be very pleased in this lifetime. People struggle with that. So let me put it into a kind of a formula here which you can take it. Plan it such a way your week that at least once in a week we come to some holy association. This kind of a programs and all that have been organized for that purpose. Either come over here, come to Sangria, go to temple, etc. That's your association. B, reading wisdom literatures. How many of you have come here for the first time? Raise your hand again. All right, take out your smartphone quickly. Take out your smartphone. Bring it in your hand. Go to YouTube. Take it on your hand quickly. Go to YouTube. And there is, if you want, you can type it, what we call as Evolve Pune, our forum. Every morning and every evening we have a program. Every morning, 7:45 to 8:30, we have discussions on Vedic literature for 45 minutes. We just completed the whole Bhagavad Gita. We started in December, and last month we completed. Now we are reading about Updeshamrit. So it's for 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. It's a podcast. You can watch it, listen to it at your leisure at any point of time. The man while driving the car, the woman while cooking, even while taking a bath, any time of the day you can hear it. Engage your mind, at least do that. Bring yourself into this culture of hearing every day something about this Vedic wisdom. So that's an opportunity where you can do that. Reading Vedic literature. Third, C, A, B, C. C refers to chanting, meditation. In the very first session, Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, I had given you a scientific study by the neuroscientists of the Stanford and Harvard University. They talked about how meditation is extremely powerful and beneficial. And that's a discussion from a Vedic literature again and again. If you want to pacify the mind, last session I was making a point, there are 4 types of sounds. Anyone remember? Vaikari, what I'm speaking, what you can hear. Then there is Madhyama. What is Madhyama sound? Sound of intelligence, intellectual. I do this or I do this. Then there is Prakriti, the sound of the mind, your desires. Then there is a sound called Para, the soul, the sound of the soul. So we all have idea of Vaikari. We all have an idea of 2 sounds within us. Should I do this? Should I do that? We all have this idea of the sound of desires. So this whole process of meditation is meant to quieten all these sounds so that you can access the sound of the soul. That is Para. Our condition right now is like that of a parrot in a cage which has been hungry all this while, and we have been only polishing the cage. And the parrot is screaming, give me food, give me nourishment. But because we are not able to hear the sound, we are only busy in polishing the cage. But would the parrot survive? Not. So chanting the mantra meditation, or this mantra meditation, what we did in the beginning, maybe you can repeat after me. Let's do it 5 times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, let me ask this way. Those of you who were part of the Kirtan before, did you feel little calmness and a little peace within you? How many of you attended Kirtan in the beginning? Raise your hands here. Okay, how many of you had that little experience where you felt a little calm and peaceful? Raise your hands. Just that's it. I don't have to tell you about this. Imagine if you sit, we just did it 5 times. If you're able to focus, you would immediately feel like disconnected from your mental and intellectual sounds. And you immediately become peaceful. This is the way we rejuvenate ourselves. How many of you see people are physically very healthy, hatta katta, but they're often exhausted? And the example of exhausted, the moment you talk to them, they seem to be very frustrated. One reason for frustration or frustrated response is the person is very exhausted, mentally exhausted, and he doesn't want to interact with anyone because overworked. Therefore, mantra meditation is very, very important. And D, A, B, C, and D stands for diet. As spiritualists or spiritual practitioners, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, first of all, it has to be vegetarian diet. It cannot be non-vegetarian diet. Maybe I can make a point or two over here, if in case somebody is confused about it. Let's take a look at it a little bit. If you go to a doctor, recently I got my blood tested. I had a vitamin D and B12 deficiency. It's not about me, it's with all vegetarian. Now somebody may say, if you go to a doctor will say, oh, you got this deficiency, well, you eat meat. Your deficiency will get over. And I feel like kicking. Why? I'll tell you. This rascal will not tell you the truth. What to do? He's paid for it. Few generations before, or let's say a century before something, when we were growing our crops and vegetables, we were not using fertilizers. How many of you agree the quality of food that you ate while you were growing up and the quality of food that you eat today has degraded like anything? Raise your hand. Now you destroy our crops and vegetables, you make it all artificial, you make it all synthetic, then you say, because you've got deficiency, because you're vegetarian, now you eat meat. Aren't they trying to control the whole food chain? Make it whole commercialized? So you cannot grow your crops, you cannot live your life, so you have to depend on the industry to support you and feed you. Second thing, the biggest source of B12 traditionally had been milk. Some time ago there was a study in America where they found out milk is very dangerous for health. Which milk? The milk where the cows are fed with so much insulin and so much whatnot to produce extra milk. For the milk for which they're tortured, you draw that milk forcefully and then you say that milk is not good. On top of it, that milk has been added with so many preservatives and whatnot. Milk is the best source. From milk you get curd, from the milk you get ghee. Who doesn't understand the value of ghee? And everything has been commercialized. Any one of you, I'm pretty sure many of you would have eaten the fresh churned butter. Now if you look at the color is same as what you see on the Amul butter picture. But the taste is entirely different. They have artificially added salt into that chemical or whatever they have made it into the industry or the factory just to give you a flavor. But there is no flavor or taste of freshness. When you have taken everything, you've taken a fresh milk, you've taken fresh vegetable, there's not even a good drinking water. While I was growing up, I had never imagined in future we'll have to pay for water. Yes or no? Think about it. I remember I had my cousin brother who was studying in a college and he told me once that when you grow up, become of my age, the situation of the world would be that you'll have to buy water. I said, Majak kar rahe hai? And I was probably in the first and the second class. When I grew up, now we cannot imagine traveling out and not buying a Bisleri. Yes or no? And we had never. So is that an advancement? First you degrade everything, and then you say vegetarian is wrong, this is wrong, that. This is just a means of cheating and controlling our life. And look at the diseases. What diseases are produced because of vegetarian diet? And look at the epidemics and the situation in the last 20 years. It all had to do with something with non-vegetarian diet. Yes or no? When the COVID had come, suddenly many people have stopped eating meat. They thought because meat, we have an experience in the past also, flu, etc., etc. It all went out viral because of meat. We should stop. And then later on, doctors had to say, no, that's not the reason. So I'm just giving you some clues over here. And what to speak of the violence? How much elements are different than us? Somebody may say, oh, really, you're talking about animals, but plants, we are committing violence to plants. But plucking, my question to you is, if you don't pluck, anyways, the plants or the trees, those fruits going to dry up and fall on the ground. Question is, for whom it is meant? Why would nature allow a tree, a mango tree, to produce mango, and it cannot be consumed by anyone? And it cannot be consumed by anyone, neither the tree needs it. And if you don't pluck it, what happens to the same mango? It gets spoiled and it falls on the ground, it's wasted. Is that a waste or not? To say you're plucking, you're hurting the plant is as foolish as an argument which we see on the debate these days people talk about on religious subject matter. Today, these days, there is a discussion about some 72 dash 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 going on. Those of you know of it. Okay. So that's as ridiculous as this. So anyways, D for diet, Krishna says vegetarian diet, and Krishna goes further. Patram pushpam phalam tvayam yome bhaktya prayachati. Not only vegetarian diet, but that which has been offered to me. If that you accept it, then it is called as yajna. You know, whenever any yajna is performed, there is an offering of food. And then when you honor it, it is called as sanctified food, prasad. So Krishna says about that. We'll introduce you to this concept later on. I just introduced here. And another thing, D stands for diet, and D also stands for devotional service. We should engage ourselves in some act of service. Why I say so? Why this ABCD formula works? Let me prove it to you. So our lust, our eternal enemy, which I believe all of you agree now is an eternal enemy, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, is residing at the senses, residing at the mind, residing in intelligence. How does this ABCD works and acts and purifies and defeats lust at all the three places, 1, 2, and 3? Intelligence gets purified by reading and hearing. B stands for reading wisdom literatures. So when you read wisdom literatures or hear about Bhagavad Gita, and when you associate, A stands for association with saintly people, you get to hear about subject matters that purifies your intelligence. A and B acts on intelligence. C means chanting. What chanting does? Mind. It acts on the level of mind and it purifies your mind. Cheto darpana marjanam. So C stands for chanting. It purifies our mind of all these diseases that we have discussed in previous sessions. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Matsarya. And D refers to both diet and devotional service. Devotional service means service. Service means engagement of senses. So when we engage our senses in service to the Lord, then these senses become free gradually because of the lust. Like this, Srila Prabhupada made it so simple, the subject matter of defeating lust. But there is always a but, twist in a story. Our success depends on, let me put it this way, despite knowing this solution which Srila Prabhupada made it so easy for all of us, he decoded Bhagavad Gita in such an easy and simplest format, there's still going to be a challenge for us to follow it. Any guesses? Let's hear from all of you. What potential challenges could be there for us to apply A, B, C, D formula in our life? Any potential challenges? Distractions. Material life. What else? Lack of sincerity. What else? Raise your hand and speak, so I know where the sound is coming from. Yes. टाइम 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 प्रभु आज तो मरने का समय नहीं है जीवन इतना व्यस्त हो गया है टाइम and that covers the lack of sincerity, the material life. It all comes under the spectrum of time, isn't it? So, our success depends on how I endeavor to give up. To give an example, there was a boy who was walking across the street and there was a carpenter, sculptor, and he was doing something on a stone slab. And the boy asked, "What are you doing?" He said, "Come back after a week, I'll tell you what I'm doing." A week later, he came to the same place and he was shocked. A week before, where there was a huge stone slab, now there lies a beautifully carved lion. And this boy asked, "Oh my God, how did you know there was a lion in the stone slab?" The sculptor said, "Well, what I did was not I carved something, I just took off something which was unnecessary." For us to make progress, a very simple example, for you to climb up, you have to lift your feet from the previous step. You have to give up something to acquire something. So if you want to live a progressive life, a happy life, there is something which you have to give up. Now let's ask what potentially you have to give up. Any guesses? What you could have to give up? Any quick thoughts? Huh? Say that loudly. Laziness, very nice, very nice, very nice, wonderful. Yes. Desires, that's not possible at this point of time, but okay. The desire is a big subject matter. Yes. Wasting our time. Expectations, okay. How I endeavor to give up two things will determine we succeed or not. Yes. But I'll just say one thing at this point of time. Attachment to wrong thing, if I have to discuss this point of time, is time wasters. The things that waste your time. Because we discussed about the problem in doing all these things, I don't have time, as a gentleman said. So things that really waste our time, attachment to those things we have to give up. Unless we take a control back in our life and decide how to live our day, how to organize our day, at the end of the day you will always say, "ये सब नहीं होता यार, ये अपनी बस की बात नहीं है, ये लोग कुछ भी बोलते हैं करके." Despite knowing and acknowledging what we discussed today as a fact, you'll go back and have the same excuse. Why? Because you're so attached to wasting time and engaging in wasteful activities. That's the first thing, attachment to wrong things. And the second is aversion to right things. It's not only that I have attachment to wrong things, simultaneously at times we are averse to doing the right things. Why? As Tarun said, laziness. Oh, who's gonna get up in the morning and chant and do meditation? How many of you here know the benefits of going for a walk or doing some yoga? Raise your hands. And how many of you struggle to do it every day? Yeah, laziness. I do agree, it's laziness, isn't it? It's not that we don't know, but we fail to do it out of laziness. So aversion to right things. So here, I just wanted a little bit give you some tips in organizing your life so that you can follow what we have discussed here. You would want to write it down. At least this part of the thing, how to organize your life. The very first thing to organize your life and to take life back into your hands is always carry a diary with you, which is, I would like to call it as a planner. Before your day begins, you really want to jot it down. What are the things I ought to be spending time on? Why? A very short and quick discussion on the time management. I believe some of you might be aware of this. I've discussed this before. Well, I'll just a little bit highlight because we're talking about practice and this is a challenge. Our day can get divided into this quadrant called as important, not important, urgent, and not urgent. 4 quadrants, quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyone of you familiar here with this concept? Okay, some of you, great. Let's see how much you are. Let's take it forward. So quadrant 1, which is said to be urgent and important, generally, I'm not going to take discussion here, we're getting late. I'll give you the point here. What it means, this is the first quadrant here, which is important and urgent. Generally, here activities means something which has gone into crisis, deadline-driven projects. Deadline-driven projects, or maybe because of my procrastination, I've ended up to a short of time now. Either way. And we get into crisis, we get into urgent and important, which requires immediate action, insistent action. When it is there, you can't do anything. You have to keep everything aside. We all have that experience of it. And this is what burns us. This is what takes us into stress. And this is what exhausts us. This should be minimized. Of course, we may not have control on it all the time, but we should try to minimize it. What we should be avoiding it, and let's take a look at quadrant 3, urgent but not important. Any example? Let's take a quick example. Something is urgent but not important. What potentially could be? Yes. Huh? Washing clothes. Okay, I don't know. I don't know. This is very subjective, I guess. I don't know. Any other example? Any other example you would like to give? Let's say, yes, a friend's calling you up. Or let's say a friend show up on your door. It may look like urgent, but is it important for you? Not necessarily, particularly uninvited guests. You getting a point? So you can think like this: casual drop-in of visitors, interruptions, emails, WhatsApp message. Suddenly it beeps. Suddenly our blood pressure increases. Krishna yaad kiya. Kaun hai, main dekhta hu. It immediately becomes urgent, isn't it? That is what this third quadrant, which really needs to be avoided. Some incoming mails, and this is called as deception, quadrant deception. Right in front of us, often they are pleasant, easy, and fun to do. And which at all costs have to be given up is quadrant 4. Not important, not urgent. Any guesses? What is not important, not urgent? This is called as quadrant of wasteful activities. So you don't have to take out any time of your day for doing ABCD. Just all those activities which you do in fourth quadrant, replace with ABCD. You will not have an excuse of time. Everyone, trust me, it's with every one of us. Now give me some examples of what activities could come which are in quadrant 4, not important, not urgent. Okay, go one by one. Watching web series. Watching web series. Surfing social media. How dangerous it is. I mean, it happens with me also. At times I open WhatsApp because I want to send a message. And after 10 minutes, मैंने क्यों खोला ये? I forget only why did I open the WhatsApp. Seriously, it has happened so many times. Because मैंने WhatsApp क्यों खोला? क्यों आया यहाँ पर? And it takes me a while to realize, oh, हाँ यार, मेरे को message करना था किसी को. And suddenly so many messages are there. You start reading here and there, so many photos, videos. And what to speak of Facebook, Instagram and what not. वो तो पूरा का पूरा माया जाल है. You keep on scrolling. 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 10 years, 20 years, your life can go on, you will still not end up browsing. So dangerous. So yes, not urgent, not important, watching mindless TV shows, movies, TV, or cricket match, football match, soccer, whatnot, gossiping. We often escape to quadrant 4 for survival. Anyways, we'll not discuss at this point in time right now. If all of us, how many of you agree, we do allocate or we do give into this fourth quadrant in our life every day? Please raise your hand. On everyday basis. So we are not asking you to do anything with quadrant 1, 2 and 3 for spiritual life. We're just saying you just replace this which does not add value. You often become exhausted. You often end up becoming more greedy or envious, etc., or seeing what is happening around in the world. Just give up those activities in this quadrant and take to spiritual life. Now everyone has a time? Potentially, everyone would have time for it. And now let's come to the quadrant 2. Important and not urgent. This is where I said, always carry a pen and diary. I don't have it here, it should be in my bag. I always have a small diary with me. I really cannot function without it. The first thing in the morning I do is get up and write. Mera aaj din kya hai? What are my appointments? What are my engagements? What are the things I ought to be doing today? And when I wake up next day, I look at it, what all I could do it, or I couldn't do it. Either the next morning or the night before you go to sleep. So important and not urgent is a thing where you organize your life, you plan your life, and now you know what to be done, not to be done. So things do not become urgent and things remain important. And this is the quadrant actually where you should be, or else I should say, when you take off these activities of the fourth quadrant and give time for spiritual meditation and exercises, you would see your life automatically will move in the second quadrant. You will begin to have control on your senses, on your mind, and that in return will bring control on your time. You'll be able to prioritize your day. how your day should look like. You'll have a far much more sense of control rather than just giving into anything. Spiritual renewal, meditation, this is called as quadrant of quality. Preparation, quadrant of empowering. So, solution is an effective time management. Hare Krishna. So, with this, we kind of conclude our today's discussion. So, to apply this ABCD formula, make sure once in a week you turn up for such kind of wisdom programs, either here or anywhere, wherever of your choice. Every day, take out 15 minutes of your time to give for yourself to chant, do meditation. And if possible, as I said, every morning at 7:45 to 8:30, we have this wisdom program where we discuss different books, or else you can hear it as a podcast later in your day. Engage into some reading and hearing, cultivation of knowledge, so your intelligence become sharpened. So with that, we conclude our this particular topic, cognitive development, the interaction of mind and intelligence. What's next when we catch up next week? What is the next week? 17th, right? Right? So 17th, we will not have a program because I had already committed for Camp Temple. There is an evening program there on next Saturday. So when we meet on 24th, which means 2 weeks from now, so next topic would be rewiring the brain. Techniques for overcoming addictive behaviors and cravings. The crux of the subject matter would be about understanding habits, how habits are formed, how to create new habits, and how to give up the bad habits. And create those habits which allows you to live a progressive and happy life. So conclude our discussion for today. We talked about overcoming anxiety, we talked about cognitive development. It all depends on fixing the problem of the mind. And mind is overtaken by Kamesha, Krodesha. And how do you defeat lust, which Krishna calls an eternal enemy? Well, identify where it resides, control your senses by developing higher taste, and cultivate intelligence by reading or hearing. To sum up, the answer lies, the technique is practicing A, B, C, D. A for association of saintly people, B for wisdom literatures, books, C for chanting, and D for devotional service, engaging your senses in the service. That's how we get purified of this enemy. And that's the way of living a life. And that's what Krishna wants us to do it. And that's the message of Bhagavad Gita, how to live our life to the fullest, as Krishna has. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for your kind attention. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Any concluding questions or comments quickly over here, if anyone has? Yes, a question at the back. Somebody has a mic? And there are a few questions here. Go ahead. Yes,
Krishna
please.
Prabhu. So first of all, I love the system architecture of that mind hijack. Yeah. Am I audible? Yeah. So you were talking about the karma, law of nature. Like we don't select parents, we don't select our gender.
Yes.
Actually, I just want to set up the scene first to go with the flow. So correct me if I'm wrong. So we humans have a tendency that we have a benefit from other living beings of the intellectual, right? So and we got the human life just because हमारे पिछले जन्म में हमारी भक्ति अधूरी रह गई थी.
Not necessarily.
So like can you elaborate over it?
No, it's not because you have taken a human form because you had an incomplete bhakti.
Okay.
You're coming part of the 8.4 million species. It's a cycle. Either we could have been born because what we were, we don't know in the past life. Astrologers, good astrologers can tell you very well.
Okay.
Either you were a human being and did some good karma, so you still got an opportunity once more, or else you have had natural progression from the lower species to the human species. Either of it. Or the case my bhakti was incomplete, I took, that possibility is also present. But it's a possibility, it's an exception. It doesn't apply as a rule for everyone. We are not here because we had incomplete bhakti. Not necessarily. It only depends if you have done a bhakti.
So when it comes to
Hold it at the bottom. I guess there is a battery over there. So yeah. Huh. What's going on with it? Maybe something to do with the cell. Not anything over here. Go ahead, try again.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
you're a young man. Speak up loudly.
Okay. So I just want to know one thing. You said that if we had a good karma, we'll get a good family. We got a good.
I never said about anything about karma. Let me clarify today.
Just
I just said human life is a junction,
yeah.
and your next destination is defined or destined or decided by. If you want to go to Delhi, then you will sit into it because you have desire to go to Delhi, and you etiquette first is desire, and your bank balance refers to your karmic account. I just made this much statement.
No. So I just talking.
कर्मा के बारे में हमने काफी समय पहले बात
हाँ.
करी
So
थी.
I just read a book, The Law of Nature, and it was written.
So what we'll do that because we have not spoken about karma today.
हाँ.
You can talk to me in person.
Okay. Sure.
Because you're going to take them into a different direction. They'll
Yeah,
be thinking
yeah,
ये कर्मा क्या होता है.
Yeah. Sure.
अभी वैसी माइंड खराब है, हिला हुआ है. तुम्हारा
sure.
क्वेश्चन थोड़ा और कंफ्यूज कर देगा. We had a question over here. Gentleman here.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. This is first time I have attended a live lecture and it was awesome. I got to know so many things. My question is, you said we should replace our fourth quadrant. We can replace with or
Special activities.
yeah. But there is no rule or no things need to check WhatsApp. I don't means I should not take bath or like that. But for bhakti, we should be like
Oh, interesting. I would say don't worry about those rules.
okay,
You just get into it
okay,
because everything has to start somewhere. Just like raising a child. Not that you give a bath to every time to a child and then mother begins the breastfeeding. It doesn't happen like that. Everything has its own stage.
okay.
So first get into the practice, divide the practice, and then we can get into the more further fine tune your those rules and regulation comes for that. So right now we kind of introduced you to certain practices which ought to be doing because it is not important. Therefore, I didn't spoke about you should take bath or not bath. What you can do is just get up, wash your face, you feel a little freshen up.
So it's not only about bath, about place and condition where.
Yes, all these have their value and they have their influence. But if we get into the discussion this point of time, you might get terrified of it, thinking that who will do all this much? When we are struggling with getting time for it, on top of it, talk about having a neat and clean place, and you'll say, I'm already lazy to find time.
Right.
You're telling me to clean and mop up? No, I'm not going to do it. Also have their own effect.
Right.
We'll discuss that in future session, but at least begin with certain practice. If anyone is already an advanced practitioner, such question can be taken in personal discussion, how we can improve it.
Right.
All right?
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. We have a question here with the mother in the middle. And we are coming to you afterwards.
Thank you.
Yes.
I had few classes of Brahm Kumari last 1 month. Okay. There they says if you are a human being now, you will be continue to be in a human life, not with any other of the dog or cat or something. But today when we were hearing the Bhagavad Gita class, it says like now if you are a human being, your karma will decide
Yes.
or your desire will decide what you are gonna be in the next.
Both.
So now it's a confusion, right? With whether Brahm Kumari says is the right one or the Bhagavad Gita says is the
Very
right
valid question. Very valid question. See, at the end of the day, we have to find out from where we are getting the knowledge.
one. Yeah.
I believe in the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. The Krishna spoke to Arjuna. You pick an example of any spiritual organization or the best of the scientists, they recognize the value of Bhagavad Gita. Now, I don't know much about Brahma Kumaris. My sincere respect to all of them, whatever they're trying to do. I would say you want to go and ask them, what's the source of your knowledge? Where is it written like a human being is born as a human being? Therefore, when I spoke, I did not spoke only. I gave you the references. So you know at the end of the day what this gentleman said was given in Bhagavad Gita. So my question to you is, or your question to them should be, you're telling us some interesting ideas, where this idea comes from. And that is a right of a student to ask, what is the source of knowledge of my teacher? Please ask them. And then you make a choice. Do you want to believe some ABCD book? some random book written by some guru of this day and that time, or you want to believe in the words of Krishna? That's your choice. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Khanak, the tallest participant here. Yes, what's your question?
अगर हमने
First of all, you were in this class or that class?
this class
Oh, you were here sitting here only? Okay, okay. Okay, then you can ask.
अगर हमने डेथ के समय पे ऐसी चीज को याद करा जो एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करती है तो हमारी नेक्स्ट डेस्टिनेशन क्या होगी?
ऐसा क्वेश्चन बच्चा ही पूछ सकता है. अरे इतना तो मैंने भी नहीं सोचा. डेथ के समय में बेटा जो एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करता उसके बारे में आप सोचोगे कैसे? आप सोचते वही हो जो आपने देखा है, सुना है, पढ़ा है. आप ऐसा कुछ सोच ही नहीं सकते जो कभी एग्जिस्ट ना करता. ऐसे प्रश्न केवल बच्चे के दिमाग में आ सकते हैं जो भी खाली है. Good question. Okay. So I guess there are no more questions here. If any other, okay, we have a question up here. Oh, we have 2-3 questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, no, for the recording purpose, online audience.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु. आई वांटेड टू आस्क वन थिंग कि हमने स्पिरिचुअल एम्पावरमेंट को सेकंड क्वाड्रेंट में रखा है वेयर इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट बट नॉट अर्जेंट. लाइक वी डोंट नो आवर फ्यूचर. लाइक आई माइट डाई राइट नाउ, आई माइट
Correct.
डाई अ डे लेटर. सो
That's not the point that we are saying spiritual practice should not be urgent. We're talking about if you identify what is important, then you will not get into the crisis of meeting the urgency. That's the point. Urgent means it's a crisis situation. Important means I ought to be doing. So it's a question of everyday practice. Not that at the fag end of my life, now I remember Krishna. That becomes urgency. So therefore, it has been put in the second quadrant where when you have a time to live your life, let spiritual practice become an important part of your life. And it is indeed urgent, but don't make it like that where you go into crisis. That's the point. Okay? Gentleman behind you.
Hare Krishna. So, Guruji, my question is how to avoid these reborning in the form of human.
Oh, that's the message of Bhagavad Gita.
No, but how can I find the moksha? By doing a chanting or something, how can I avoid
Correct.
the different?
That's the whole subject matter of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita has around 700 shlokas. We probably covered 8. So we have 692 shlokas to study more. Have patience. You'll get an answer.
I don't
You
know.
don't get.
You don't have the short answer for this.
Huh?
You don't have the short answer for this. I need
Even
to go
if I
through
give
all
the answer, that will not satisfy your intelligence at this point of time. So when Bhagavad Gita has been for 700 verses, and this is the most important question, which means it took 700 verses to answer that. For me to give you that answer after the 6 or 7 verses here discussed today, I guess I'm either too smarter than Krishna, or maybe you're too smarter than Arjuna. Someone is wrong here. We have to wait. You know, I give an answer. What's the point of it? It's not going to make a sense here at this point of time. So have patience. This is not the end. This is not the last program. This is the beginning. You're the first time coming, right?
Second time.
Or second time. Good. So more to go. Okay.
Thank you.
And if you are eager to know about it, you can always read Bhagavad Gita and find. Yes, over there.
Hare Krishna. So you said that when a soul leaves the body, it travels to its next body and it goes through a lot of pain, and just to curtail those pains, there are certain rituals which
Yes.
we perform.
Pindadan, Shraddh,
Yeah.
ceremony and all
So
that.
my question is that when we know that soul does not have a morphology, it's just form of energy. We cannot see it, we cannot touch it, it's not visible. So how can it go through pain, or what kind of pain?
So the point, the pain is not, or the enjoyment is not of the soul. The soul is in the pain as long as it is in the material world. If I now give you an answer from the context of Bhagavad Gita, it's called preta. Preta means not a gross body, but the subtle body of mind, intelligence, false ego is still with the soul. And that undergoes very terrible experiences. Even while in this gross body, anything horrific happens to us, it hurts us. And so does with the subtle body. Effectively, what gets hurts is a subtle body only. Gross body is as much as like this table. If you kick this table, nothing going to happen. When you kick the body, something happens. It's largely dealing with the subtle body. Similarly, when the gross body has been given up, there is something called as airy body, which is called as preta in the Sanskrit, that is given to a living entity, a very subtle covering on the top of subtle body. And we didn't discuss, it's mentioned in Garuda Puran, what all it undergoes towards its next destination. Why? The terrible experience is created so that the living entity realizes, I'm at the wrong place. For God's sake, what am I doing here? That's the point about it. Okay? Soul doesn't undergo, but because soul is now connected to this world, the experiences is created around it that way. Okay, so thank you all for your kind attention. I believe it would be some time, I don't know what time. Okay, so if anyone would have any more questions, I'm available. We can take it on one-on-one. Okay, one last question, gentlemen. Pass on the mic here.
Hello, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Regarding lust,
Yes.
they reside in 4 places.
Three.
3 places. I have couple of questions, related questions. First is that why in the first place lust has to be there and residing in those 3 places? And if I think, because lust means desires also, is it that because without desires human body will not act? Is it because of that? These 2 questions.
So the very first question, why this desire exists on its own? In the very first place, why the lust exists, and why the lust exists on these 3 places. Again, is a very fundamental and core question of the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. You've asked this, while I try to answer at this point of time. We, as we saw in the 15th chapter, verse number 7, we are the part and parcel of the Lord. Just like a fire spark, as long as it is connected with the fire itself, it can emit heat and light. And when that same fire spark flies out of that fire, falls somewhere else, it extinguishes. Which means as long as we, being a part and parcel of the Lord, are in union with the Lord, are in one with purpose with the Lord, we are in the right direction. But the moment we get disconnected, just like a fire spark from the fire, at that point of time our problems begins to exist. Therefore Krishna says, why are you struggling, Arjuna? You're not supposed to struggle unless you're going through challenges of life. So what are these desires? These desires are to become the proprietor, to become the controller, to become the enjoyer. And there's no factual reality to it. Who can be the controller? Now, from our perspective of this world today, somebody becomes the CEO of the company, somebody becomes the president of USA. It's such an esteemed position. And the poor guy who served as one of the presidents in the previous term is now running around the court cases. So even he tried to become the controller, proprietor, and enjoyer. At one point of time, he became the president of the strongest country in the world. His suffering still continues. Nothing is permanent. So neither you can be the absolute controller, nor you can be the absolute proprietor. Now what to speak of enjoyer? This body, such a huge body, only in a certain limited ways it can give you some enjoyment. But it has unlimited opportunity to give you suffering. A little thorn enters into your body, you cannot sit peacefully when it comes out. A little tiny thorn entering into any part of your body, think about it, how much suffering it can give. So this false idea, this is called as lust, where a person wants to fulfill this false ideas of life, that I want to become a controller, I want to become a proprietor, I want to become an enjoyer. And that is what the cause of our suffering. And why so? Because we have disconnected from the Supreme Lord, we have forgotten who is our Father. We think I am the God, I ought to become the God, I am the supreme controller, and the struggle continues like this. And why it lies in mind, intelligence, false ego? That's mind, intelligence, senses. Senses are part of the gross body, mind, intelligence part of the subtle body. So the desires of the souls manifest in this outside world through the medium of subtle and the gross body. Subtle body, which is mind, intelligence, false ego, acts as a bridge which helps to transport desire from one end to another end. But because this bridge is contaminated, polluted, so although the desires are genuine, but when it goes through this contaminated mind and intelligence, what comes out is those contaminated actions. Therefore, this whole process of purifying that is given. Engage your senses, purify your intelligence by reading and hearing Bhagavad Gita. Chant so that your mind becomes purified of all the false notions and all that corrupted ideas. Like this, we kind of set our system back in order, which is corrupted. Okay? It's a subject matter. You really asked a deep question. I had to give this answer some way. So we'll discuss all this. You'll get to know about all these desires and desire management. Hare Krishna. I know your questions are there. We can meet in on one-on-one now. It's probably 8:30. Okay? We should end. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, wonderful session. And I hope you have many takeaways. The biggest takeaway from this session, which I am going to take, is second quadrant. How to work on second quadrant and fix that spiritual realization. Plan out for the day. So, okay, we'll conclude here. Before we go for the dinner prasadam, I would like to thank the sponsor who have sponsored today's dinner prasadam. I would like to invite Balaji Prabhu and his family to come. They have sponsored it of no occasion. I asked the occasion, but they sponsored at their own will. Please come here. Prabhuji would like to...
Service opportunity needs no occasion. We should be eager to serve. Hare Krishna. So a small gift from us for this wonderful family. This is one of my favorite books. This is a book of my own teacher. His own is Radhanath Swami Maharaj. What we have discussed, you'll find more deeper analysis of it in this book titled as Journey Within. So let's express our gratitude for this wonderful family who took this opportunity to serve each and every one of you by assisting and sponsoring today's dinner prasadam. We'll do that by offering our prayer to the Lordship for this wonderful family. So our prayer to Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra, Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra, Shri Gaurnitai, Balaji Bhagwan and Srila Prabhupada to bless this wonderful family who since the first day have met. I have noticed they are very cultured, come from a wonderful background, family background, traditional background, have this aspect of inclination for spiritual life from their parents itself, and I've always seen them taking all the opportunity to serve in any and every occasion. Let the Lordship continue to inspire their hearts. May fulfill all their choices, blessings, and award them with more and more opportunities for service for one and all. Let's chant once Hare Krishna Mahamantra as our prayer for them. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Prabhupada.